everybody. Welcome to the D. Louise book series. It's nice to meet you. I'm Christina, Kristina. This is where we read books and talk books. No special effects going on here, no special nothing. What you see is what you get. So, just a reminder to please check out my Star Trek Next Generation recaps on Friday. My if-thens on Fridays. If you like this author, then maybe you like that author. And Flashback Monday, where we talk about all the books they reviewed in this magazine. This one has 268. You will never see another magazine do over 200 reviews every single month like they did. So please check out Flashback Monday. The other day, I got carried away and did 70 books. Most of the time I do 20 or 30. And also my daily book reviews. We are doing, I keep saying Alex Cross, James Patterson's Alex Cross series, J.R. Ward's Black Dagger Brotherhood, and Victoria Thompson Gaslight series, Murder on Amsterdam Avenue. Can you believe it? It's book 17 already. Oh, we only have 10 more books to go until we have to wait till next year. So we have 10 more books in this series left. So if you could please hit the like and subscribe, let me know I'm doing a good job here. I'm trying my best. No one is watching my videos, but maybe one day you'll see these. They'll come up somewhere. The other day I got some pop-ups in my YouTube thing, videos 5 years ago. So maybe in 5 years you'll be watching these. Just don't bother my camera. My computer's being held together by a binder clip. The bottom fell out, so it's being held together. Oh, and I have to warn you now. Spoilers, 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 spoilers. Tons and tons and tons and tons of spoilers. When I do these books, I won't spoil the whodunit, but I will spoil everything else about the characters because I like the characters. I read the series for character progression to see what's up with them. Come here. Come here. Come here. Come here. Come here. Come here. Come say hi. Hi. How's my girl? How's my Sandy? Are you going to read a book with Mommy tonight? She sits on Mommy's lap and Mommy reads the book. Read the book to Miss Sandy. Miss Sandy. Come here, Miss Sandy. Sandy. Come here, Sandy. 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 Okay. So anyways, Murder on Amsterdam Avenue. And I usually give this big spiel, but we know that Sarah Brandt was a midwife and Frank Malloy was a cop, and she was estranged from her parents in the beginning, but now they have all worked out that relationships. They've started visiting each other and socializing with each other. Her mother has started helping out with investigations. Her mother's gotten into it. Her mother enjoys helping Sarah. They've developed a relationship. She's got Maeve and Catherine now. They adopted them, took them as her guardian. And now that Frank has inherited all the money and been forced off the police force, he hasn't officially yet, but when they get back from the honeymoon, I'm getting ahead of myself now, but then he'll be opening up a private eye office. But in the meantime, we have a book to spoil, and I am going to spoil it something terrible. Oh, the ending is just awesome. It is just grab your book and read with me. But Sarah's mom is talking to her and tells her that Charles Oakes has died, and he was the son of Gerald Oakes. And her mom wants Sarah to go with her to make it a condolence call on the family because her mom believes that this is a way for Sarah to get back into society. Now, Sarah's been out of society since she's been working as a midwife and since she married Tom Brandt, who died several years ago now. But, Sarah's been trying to avoid all this, but it's really, really important to her mother that Sarah get back into society and start socializing with the matrons. Sarah doesn't want to be the one to be spending her days going to teas and gossiping and stuff like that. She has, she wants to be active. And she doesn't do too much midwifing after this, but she does do some. But, and she's got Maven, Catherine now, and Brian, which is the whole reason that we are learning sign language. Well, I'm learning for Skull, sorry, I'm getting my signs all mixed up here. But it's also relevant to know that in the J.R. Ward series, John Matthew is mute, and he relies on sign language too to communicate with people. So that's 2 series that we're currently reading that have sign language in them. So I thought we'd just talk about that for a second. So so Sarah's kind of, iffy on it. But when they get to the house to visit, to make their condolence call, it is discovered that Gerald and the father was in the Union Army, and he had been in the South when he met Jenny, his wife, and he married her, and they brought her back, and they had the son Charles here. But then a couple of weeks ago, this lady showed up claiming to be one of the slaves on Jenny's plantation. And so Jenny took her in the house. And there's a whole complicated story. I mean, very multi-layered, very complex story. And it's really not revealed until the very end of the book what's going on there. So Gerald Oakes hires Frank to find out who killed his son. Once it's been confirmed that his son did die of arsenic poisoning. And Frank uses this other coroner, but he can't use Haynes because Haynes is an official cop coroner, and Frank is no longer a cop. So he's using this other guy. And like I said, Gerald Oakes has heard about Frank from the Knickerbocker Club, which is where Mr. Decker, Sarah's dad, had Frank solve a mystery there. So so Frank does the investigation, and they do the normal of questioning all the servants and questioning everybody else. And in the meantime, our old pal Gino returns. He had apparently quit the police force, and he went off with Theodore Roosevelt's Rough Riders with the war. And he has since returned, and he's going to start working with Frank too as his assistant. So in the meantime, Sarah and Frank's house is getting repaired and remodeled for them. They bought a house in the neighborhood, a much, much bigger house, and they added a couple of bathrooms and added some other rooms to it. And the carpenters have been, and the construction people have been pulling, doing a little extra work here, a little extra work here, anything to draw it out. And you'll never guess who helps them solve this problem. You can see it coming down the road, who's going to solve this whole thing for them. But they're waiting to get married until the house is finished, and then they're going on a long honeymoon to Europe. But this is a cute little interaction between Frank and his mom, and I just thought it was cute. Where is it? The next morning was Saturday, and Frank's mother answered the door when Gino arrived. Frank was still eating his breakfast in the newly finished kitchen. "It's that Italian boy," she informed him, pronouncing the I-Italian. "I didn't know he was home. He was discharged from the army a few days ago. Why didn't you bring him back here?" She sniffed. "I didn't think millionaires entertained visitors in their kitchens." Frank knew better than to get into discussion with her about proper behavior for millionaires. "He's not a visitor. I've hired him to help me investigate a murder." She pulled herself up to her full 5'0" and said, "So you're just going around the city butting into other people's business now that you're rich and don't have anything else to do?" I've been hired as a private investigator, he said as patiently as he could. Gino is working for me. I am doing it as a favor for a friend of Mr. Decker's. First you say you've been hired and then you're doing a favor. Which is it? Both. If people don't pay you, they don't value your work, so I'm charging him, even though I don't need the money. But this Gino needs the money if he's just got out of the army and doesn't have a job. That's right. And I'll see to him myself because you're the mother of a millionaire and you don't have to work either. Is so cute. I just love Gino and Frank, and Mrs. Malloy is just honest. Um so then I'll leave this other part about Daisy. There's a whole revelation. There's several revelations about Daisy throughout the book, and her identity and what's going on with her is going to be a key part of it. There is also going to be another gentleman enters the scene, Mr. Adderley, and he's got an interesting past, and there's some stuff going on with him too. But that's a whole subplot. That's not that's a side plot, I should say. It's not the main one. But I do have to I have another little read that I have to share because, and I'm going to do a whole video on Mrs. Ellsworth when we finally get to book 24, or maybe I'll wait till book 30. But I enjoy Mrs. Ellsworth a lot. So where is it? Sarah and the girls were cleaning up the breakfast dishes when their neighbor Mrs. Ellsworth knocked on the door. She brought them some muffins as an excuse to check on the progress with the new house. Mrs. Ellsworth had always found that minding other people's business was much more interesting than minding her own. "Oh, Mrs. Brant, you mustn't give up hope," she said after Sarah had given her the discouraging report Malloy had delivered last night. "I broke a needle last night when I was mending Nelson's shirt." Nelson is her son. "That always means a wedding will happen soon." "You've been seeing wedding omens for years," Maeve reminded her. "Well, some of them I made up," Mrs. Ellsworth said, without the slightest hint of guilt. "But this one is genuine." "Maybe the wedding will be Nelson," Sarah suggested. Mrs. Ellsworth's son had been keeping company with a young lady for several months. "I'm hoping, but Nelson doesn't want to rush things, while I'm sure Mr. Malloy would be happy to." Sarah thought so too, but she said, "The girls and I can't move in till the house is ready. It's bad enough the poor Malloy family has to put up with the mess." "Then you must hurry the workmen along, because September is the best month for you to marry unless you want to wait till November." "Why is that, Mrs. Ellsworth?" Maeve asked, with feigned innocence, knowing how much Sarah hated for her to encourage their neighbor's superstitions. "Because, as the rhyme says, married in September's golden glow, smooth and serene your life will go. Married when leaves in October thin, toil and hardship for you begin." "Oh my, I had no idea," Maeve said, ignoring Sarah's frown. "But maybe they want to wait for November for better fortune. What does that bring?" Married in veils of November mist, fortune your wedding ring has kissed." "And what about December?" And Sarah cuts her off and says, "No, we're not waiting till December." So, all right, now the little extra piece at the end. I have to spoil. I just have to. But before we get there, Charles, the son, has been murdered. He was killed by arsenic, and the father had hired Frank to investigate. And there are several additional murders in the book, and the plan and the complicated path to the murderer is a winding road, and it leads in all different directions. But I really enjoyed the heck out of these books. So once we get the murder solved. We have a wedding. Maeve came into the kitchen and sat down next to Sarah at the table. Catherine is asleep, she reported. Are you going to go over to the house again tomorrow to help Malloy with the workmen? Sarah teased. But instead of making a face as Sarah expected, Maeve said, Didn't he tell you? Tell me what? Oh, I guess he hasn't had a chance yet because he got home so late. Did you know he went over to see an attorney after he brought you home? An attorney, her mother echoed, whatever for? He went to see the attorney who used to be Ella Adderley's guardian. He wanted to make sure someone knew that her cousin was trying to take advantage of her and steal her fortune. That was nice of him, her mother said. Yes, it was. But I still want to know. Malloy hasn't told me yet, she reminded Maeve. Maybe I should let him break the news. What news? Sarah's mother said, her lovely eyes lightening with curiosity. Yes, what news? Sarah asked. Maeve gave a smug smile, and for a minute Sarah was afraid she might have to beat it out of the girl, but finally she said, The house is finished. What do you mean the house is finished? Sarah asked. Just that. I think the workmen were dragging things out so they could charge Mr. Malloy more money. He told me he suspected that's what they were doing, and so I asked the foreman to walk me through the house and show me what they still needed to do. He really was a terrible liar. He lied to you? Sarah's mother said, right to your face. Maeve shrugged. He thought I was some idiot girl who didn't know anything. What do you know about construction? Sarah asked. Nothing, but I know what houses are supposed to look like, and I know a lie when I hear one. So I had a nice little talk with the man about how angry Mr. Malloy would be, and she worked it all out. Maeve solved the problem. So they're gonna get married, but now Sarah brings up the fact that Frank is Catholic and she's not Catholic. So they have to get married in the rectory where my grandparents got married because my grandmother was Methodist and my grandfather was Catholic, and that always pissed her off something terrible. My grandmother hated that they had to get married in the rectory. She hated it, something terrible. And she was pissed off about it till the day she died. Absolutely serious. This is what she's talking about on the day she died. But anyway, so what they decide to do is that they'll get married once in the rectory at the church, and Maeve is going to be maid of honor, and Gino is going to be best man, and it's so cute and awesome. The morning of the weddings dawned bright and cool. Felix Decker sent his carriage to carry his daughter, Maeve, and Mrs. Malloy to the rectory for the Catholic ceremony. Frank and Gino took a cab so the groom wouldn't see the bride before the wedding, because Mrs. Ellsworth had warned them sternly more than once how much bad luck that would bring. Are you nervous, Mr. Malloy? Gino asked as the cab wound its painfully slow through the city streets. No, I'm terrified. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. You came to read the book with me? Come here. Come here. What do you have to be scared of? Mrs. Brandt is beautiful and a real lady. That's what I'm scared of. Gino needed a minute to figure it out. Oh, because you're not like her. No, I'm not. But you're rich now. Maybe richer than her father, even. Gino smoothed the label of the tailor-made suit Frank had bought for him for the wedding. Money don't make you a gentleman. You're right. I've met a lot of rich men who were bums. Frank looked at Gino in his amazement at his insight. So have I. I don't think Mrs. Brandt would marry a bum. Frank felt the knot of fear in his chest loosen a bit. You're right, Gino, she wouldn't. Now tell me again what I'm supposed to do, because I'm really terrified. I've never been a best man before. The ceremony at the rectory had been mercifully brief. The priest had explained during their early meeting that because Sarah wasn't Catholic, they couldn't hold the service in the sanctuary. He could dispense with a lot of rituals. Even without them, Sarah thought the ceremony was beautiful. She remembered making those same vows when she married Tom Brant, but she hadn't really understood what they meant. Now she did. When she looked into Malloy's eyes as he slipped the ring on her finger, she knew he did as well. As afterwards they all rode to the Decker house in the carriage, Malloy held her hand and he couldn't seem to take his eyes off her. Sarah knew she looked beautiful. Maeve had told her often enough this morning when they were getting dressed. Her mother's dressmaker had followed Sarah's instructions perfectly, designing her an elegant gown of robin's egg blue taffeta trimmed with lace. She wanted something much simpler, of course, but Maeve had reminded her that both Sarah and her sister had eloped, and Mrs. Decker had this only one chance to see her daughter get married, so Sarah better do it right. And they have everybody over to the house, at the Decker's house for the wedding, and even Theodore Roosevelt comes to the wedding with his wife. You can read the rest of it for yourself, but I really, really enjoyed this series. It's so good. I'm anxious to get on to the next one, and the next James Patterson's Alex Cross, and the next J.R. Ward. Please continue following me with those, and don't forget Flashback Monday. I work so hard on those. And If Then Fridays, I did one on Grisham, I did one on vampires, legal thrillers and vampires, and my latest one is Black authors, and I did all contemporary, romance, sci-fi, vampire, paranormal. I went out like crazy, and it fell flat. No one watched it. So if you could please hit the like and subscribe, I'd appreciate it, and enjoy these books with me. Thank you.